What are you reading?
I'm reading a story about James,
And who is James?
the friend of Gloria.
18 December 2003. Jeez, I remember that day. It was today. They walk free after 18 years, locked up, being innocent. The prime time of his life. I mean, imagine being 31 and sent away for, with a sentence 80 years long for something he didn't do.
My name is James R. Weddell. I'm 39 years old, and I belong to the Yankton Sioux tribe of South Dakota. We belong, first and foremost, to the Great Red Nation.
I feel I'm going down just about every day. I'm seeing shadows in the dark.
Can you just resume a little bit the case? What was it? Like Jim was convicted of manslaughter in first degree for the death of Randy Caldwell. After there was this fight which involved a lot of different people.
Right.
And from what I know, it was basically a fight between these white people and some other Indian guys in the middle of Wagner, where Jim is from, Wagner in South Dakota.
Right.
And what happened is that at some point Randy Caldwell was struck on the side of his neck.
He was.
And an artery broke, and so his death was like instant.
Yes. The pathologist, Dr. Randall from Sioux Falls, indicated that there was one blow that could have caused the death of Randy Caldwell. That was not, he had about 2 or 3 bruises on his head, but there was one that was much more serious than the rest of them.
In 1989, when there wasn't a Fort Randall casino providing jobs, and the unemployment rate on my Yankton reservation was close to 90%, that was a big sum. It wasn't the first time that I had been betrayed. It's hard to be an Indian and keep your sense of honor intact.
There were 3 defendants in the case. There was a Weston, there was Honey Michael, and then there was Jimmy Weddell. So Weston's case at trial, the charges against Weston were dismissed. So that left 2 people that went to trial. But then, when the prosecution realized that they were in trouble because there were 2 defendants, there was no aiding and abetting statute, they could only convict one guy for the one blow to the head that caused the death. They went back and talked to Randall, and he then changed his testimony, and he said, well, both of them could have, both of these bruises on the head could have caused the death, and there were 2 defendants and that they both struck him. That was what happened at trial.
It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Jiddu Krishnamurti.
This monument is to commemorate the Treaty of 1858 between the Yankton Sioux, Ihiankwans, and the United States government, wherein we ceded 11 million acres of land for peaceful and undisturbed use of this area here, 430,000 acres. We wanted to point this out, and these are the treaty signers right here in English. And this Frank Gloria, this is Jim Weddell's great-great-grandpa.
James was a thorn in the side of the South Dakota's prison system. The state had previously done all it could to keep him in Marion federal prison, even after the 22 months of his federal sentence had expired. Why? because Sioux Falls was still ringing with the echoes of James' escape that had taken place 5 years earlier. The press had christened the escape South Dakota's Great Escape and given it much attention in a way that could not put the police in a particularly good light.
May of 1988, we lived in Salt Lake City, Utah. My mom had just graduated from the University of Utah, and we were getting ready to move back down here to the Yankton to res. My dad, my Uncle Larry, and my Uncle Joe Lovo, they came. They were helping us move. Me and Jody were in our back bedroom. All of a sudden we heard lots and lots of footsteps coming up those steps. All of a sudden the door busted open and there was a bunch of U.S. Marshals. They had guns. They told us all to get down. They threw my Uncle Larry on the floor and made my dad and Joe Lovell get down on the ground. They had guns to their heads. And me and Jody were still in the back room. We came out and of course they told us to put our hands up. They frisked us down and made us get down on our knees. And we had a poster of my Uncle Jim on the wall there, and we even told them they thought my Uncle Larry was my Uncle Jim, and they were happy. They thought they had their man. We told them, no, that's Larry, the one on the poster, that's Jim. But no, they took him. They had those handcuffs on him so tight. His wrists were bleeding. But they took him downtown for a couple hours, and then they brought him back because they had the wrong man.
What I did was I filed a writ of habeas corpus in the circuit court, the same circuit court that convicted him, raising a number of issues that hopefully would result in convincing a judge that he had not received a fair trial.
I know when I go, you just shut the door. I'm tired of losing.
But that was not availing before Judge Rush, and so we had to appeal it to the South Dakota Supreme Court to exhaust, what we call exhaust, all legal remedies provided by state law before we could go into federal court. So we did that, and we went to the South Dakota Supreme Court on these same issues, and unfortunately we did not prevail there either. They affirmed the conviction. After, I think, weeks or months, he issued an opinion holding that Jimmy's rights had been violated because the rule of Batson had been violated, and Indian man had been, or a woman had been kept off the jury. He then gave the state so many days to try the case again or to release Jimmy. And Jimmy had already been in jail for many years. And the witnesses had died. The state was in a very precarious position because they couldn't try this case again. So, and at this point in time, we were just interested in getting Jimmy out of prison. So, negotiations took place between myself and the state, and the state agreed then that if Jimmy would just simply plead to an assault charge, they would have no objection to him being released and being on probation for, I think it was, yeah.
Words set me free. This is my story.
I feel